The end. Good night. Sleep tight. Don't let the bedbugs bite. What? You want to hear another one? But it's a school night. Okay, just this once. I'm such a pushover. What type of story shall we hear? How about a fairy tale for our times? A field of dreams fenced in by white picket. A story of the young man and woman we all hope to be someday. Well, too bad. That's the story you're getting. Once upon a time, there was a young woman, pretty as a day in June. The young man stood by her side, smart as a whip and handsome as a polo horse. They met in high school and fell in love on a merry day in May. Before long, the young man dropped to his knee, pulled a diamond from his pocket, and won the young woman's hand in marriage.
Oh, okay, excuse me, Mr. Storyteller.
Moving right along, with the blessings of their compatible each otherness.
Okay, Mr. Storyteller.
Excuse me a moment. Yeah, what is it?
We didn't exactly meet in high school.
Yes, you did. It says so right here.
We met in a bar.
And we dated on and off for 5 years while she experimented with foreigners.
What?
How nice. Well, for our purposes, let's say you met in high school, shall we? Okay, so, with the blessings of their compatible families, the young man and woman were to be bride and groom.
Wait a minute. As I recall, you kept breaking it off.
What?
Yeah. When you want me back the minute I had a new boyfriend.
You certainly didn't waste any time running into the arms of the first guy who had an accent.
Shh. Don't argue in front of the impressionable youngsters. The bride soon set in on the wedding preparations.
Okay, I never realized that you were a racist.
I'm not. I was fine with the fact you'd slept with black men.
You're assuming that racism automatically refers to African Americans. Isn't that a kind of racism in and of itself?
Excuse me, ma'am, sir. Throw me those bushes so I can return to the story. Thank you.
By all means, don't let anything silly like our issues get in your way.
Look, will you play along? The children will have ample opportunity to be disillusioned later. Let's just have a nice bedtime story, okay? Okay? As I was saying, the preparations. They were to be married in a beautiful church,
Drive-through chapel in Vegas.
followed by an elegant reception at an old inn in Vermont.
Back room at the Stardust Lounge.
The bride put Martha Stewart to shame, as she had the evening designed to the last detail.
Ha! That really sounds like you.
From the linen napkins to the centerpieces of purple freesia and Italian roscos.
Okay, I think he was invited to someone else's wedding.
And why is he assuming the bride always has the taste? Does it never occur to anyone that the groom might want to participate? I worked my way through law school as a floral designer. That's how I knew freesia is all wrong for a centerpiece, except maybe as an accent flower.
You were a floral designer?
You need to base your arrangement on a more substantial bloom, like a lily or an orchid.
Okay, Brad, is there something you want to tell me?
Actually, there's something I want to tell these youngsters, so that they can get to bed at a decent hour. The story.
Okay, well, Mr. Huffy Huff.
So, they had their flawless reception for 300 guests at a turn-of-the-century inn in Vermont.
Okay, we're not in Vermont. We've never been to Vermont.
At which all had a delightful time.
What do you mean? Is there something I want to tell you?
Immediately following the splendid reception.
I mean, is there something you haven't been honest with me about? I mean, with yourself about?
Like what?
The bride at the tender age of 24. What? What's so funny? What is it?
She's not even close to 24.
What? Wait a minute here, Buster Brown. Whose story is this?
Ours.
Ours.
Wrong. This is a fairy tale. I'm going for prototypes here.
Okay, but I'm 35.
In this story, you're 24. The average American woman gets married at 24.
Okay, so how old's that make him?
27. Why? How old is he really?
I'm the one that's 24.
Isn't that a little young to be getting married, though?
How come 24 is okay for me, but it's not for him?
Well, you're the woman. You're supposed to be younger.
Jesus!
Now, before I was interrupted for the umpteenth time, boys and girls, I was saying that after the reception, the 24-year-old bride was whisked away in a horse-drawn carriage by our 27-year-old Prince Charming.
Yeah, whisked away where?
I don't know. To the airport!
Yeah, which one?
The airport of Vermont.
Okay, there's one in Burlington and there's one in Montpelier.
How did you know that?
I majored in geography.
You did?
What? Okay, so Mr. Fancy Pants, which one was it?
The one where you caught your flight to Hawaii for your honeymoon.
Okay, this whole fairy tale is completely out of hand. Anyone knows there's no flights from Vermont to Hawaii? You have to fly through Logan or LAX, or both. And anyway, I highly doubt that they'd see horses or led horses into the terminal.
For God's sake, what's the big deal in telling children a nice little story?
No one's life turns out like that. How many of those kids will live up to your version of the story? None. They can't, it's too much pressure. It's like why Catholic women are all messed up because you can't be a virgin and be a mother. I mean, and Brad, I probably shouldn't have married you to begin with.
Shayna, how can you say that?
You're probably gay!
What?
Oh, come on, how many straight male floral designers do you know?
That's what you thought I needed to be honest about?
You didn't even know that I majored in geography. Okay, listen, if we're talking averages here, okay, most people don't get married in Vermont. They get married in their one-horse hometowns that have Walmarts and bad zoning.
So what's wrong with that?
Nothing! That's my point. Most people get married in their hometowns. Most people cheat on their spouses and end up in counseling or sell everything they own to get into a lousy nursing home. Put that in your fairy tale and smoke it.
No one's smoking anything. There are children present.
Oh, and God forbid we tell them what life is really like.
She's got a point there. You're opening yourself up for multiple class action suits, mister.
Fine, I've had it. You want the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, the whole enchilada, the proverbial hook, line, and sinker? Well, far be it from me to give those little souls something to which to aspire.
Do it!
I'm warning you, it will not be pretty.
Okay, yeah, we stand warned.
I'm such a pushover. Once upon a time in a trailer park, not so far away, there lived a woman approaching middle age who drank a lot of bourbon, smoked a pack a day, hung out in places where they throw peanut shells on the floor.
Okay, all right already.
And a young, slightly effeminate man who took it up the ass once from a fellow Eagle Scout. But since it only happened once when he was 17 and drunk on Kahlua, he still considered himself straight.
Hey!
The woman and the man met in a bar one night where they got drunk and slept together afterwards at her place. Since the woman felt guilty about the one-night stand, she felt she needed to make a legitimate relationship out of the encounter to justify the sex, even though she really does prefer black men. To stay deep in the dark closet, the man proposed to the woman, and since she's 35, and let's face it, not getting any younger, she accepted his pathetic offer because it was a real ego boost to have snagged a hot stud 11 years younger than she. Even if he does have the occasional problem getting a stiffy with her because he's really gay. Although the man offered to plan the entire wedding with his best friend Steve, the woman insisted they hire a horse-drawn carriage to drop them off at the airport of Vermont, from which they would take 6 connecting flights to Las Vegas to get married by an Elvis impersonator. To celebrate, they showed up at the Stardust Lounge, at which they bought all the bar patrons cheese balls and Budweiser. When they arrived back in Weehawken, New Jersey, the groom, unable to suppress his inner self for a moment longer, took up with a drag queen from Soho. And the bride, realizing she'd never be a mother, consoled herself with vodka and Xanax and died of a somewhat accidental overdose 3 years later. The groom, now 27, took up wearing cowboy hats and chaps and made the unfortunate mistake of traveling to Wyoming on a business trip, where he was dragged to his death behind a 4x4 by a bunch of homophobic rednecks. The drag queen wrote a show about the 3 of them in which he played all the parts, won a genius grant, and landed his own talk show on New York City cable access. I bid you good night. And sweet dreams, children. The end.
Okay, you know,
Mr. Storyteller.
just you could, if you wanted to, you could tell the do the other version.
Fairy tale.
You could do the
Yeah.
do the fairy tale. Do the fairy tale.
Yeah, that's good. That'll.
Yeah, no, we'll okay.